Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health Insurance and CNBC TV 18.
Health insurance is often described as complex, opaque, even intimidating. But behind every policy is a system of underwriting, claims, pricing, and service, to name a few, designed to balance fairness, sustainability, and trust. So what does it really take to make health insurance work? Not just on paper, but at scale. That's the big question we are asking here today. Hello and welcome to Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health Insurance and CNBC TV 18. I'm Ritu Bhandari. And joining us today on the show is Amitabh Jain, Chief Operating Officer at Star Health and Allied Insurance, a leader who's deeply involved in the operational backbone of one of India's largest standalone health insurers. Amitabh, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Pleasure, Madhu. Looking forward.
Well, let's begin with the larger philosophy that health insurers are the custodians of the policyholders' premiums and their money. Now, in that sense, how well is this responsibility understood? And operationally, what does it mean to balance the interests of the relatively smaller number of people who are actually claiming versus the larger population that is paying the premium but perhaps is not the claimant?
Yeah, that's a very important question, Madhu, that's often not fully understood by a lot of policyholders. Look, if you step back and see what is the role of an insurer, insurer is just the custodian of policyholder funds. For illustration, if say you have a pool of 100 policyholders and out of those, say in a particular given year, maybe 10 to 12 will claim, the remaining 85 plus will not claim, okay? Imagine if these 12 claimants are claiming so much that the remaining 85 or 88 who are not claiming have to keep paying higher premiums every year. How would they feel? So this whole issue of balancing, what we pay to the claimant and how we keep the premiums affordable for the non-claimants is very, very important.
Right.
And while we want to ensure that for each claimant, we are fair, okay, we give them a dignified claims experience and, give them the best service, but also ensure that the non-claimants, okay, they also have a reason to continue with their policies and pay affordable premiums.
Right. And how much of an influence does the claimant's experience have on the confidence of the non-claimant? Because everyone who's taken that policy is looking at the experience of those who are putting in the claims, right?
It's absolutely essential, and that's the moment of truth. Claim is the moment of truth. That's what somebody has bought the policy for. Otherwise, policy is just a promise. Yeah. So that's very, very important. And that gives the confidence to the rest of them that, okay, I should continue here because this company settles claims well. But it's a tightrope walk for the insurer at the end to keep a balance for these two and ensure that both of them are kept happy.
Well, we are also in times where, medical technology treatments are evolving very, very fast. Now, every year you have more and more advancements happening in terms of critical illnesses, infectious diseases, senior living, and various segments of the population. How do you then ensure that, your insurance is comprehensive, is future ready, and covers everything that we might be suffering, say, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now?
Insurance should be a reflection of what's happening in the society at large. And so if healthcare is advancing, you have robotic care, robotic treatments happening, modern treatments happening in immunotherapy. You have, for women, IVF for assisted reproduction and so on. And also a lot of work happening on wellness and prevention. We believe that the coverage has to keep pace with that. And therefore, we have a whole lot of products that take care of all of this. And we ensure that, all of this is offered to them in a seamless manner and a great customer service experience.
How do you ensure that, while, of course, customers get a very smooth, seamless, frictionless experience as far as claims are concerned, and they get settled fast and they get settled well. But what are some of the operational guardrails that you have to put in place to not just ensure frictionless claim settlement, but also ensuring that there is no misuse or overutilization of the system and the offerings?
But let me first start with the experience itself. Now, imagine that when you, Madhu, for example, have gone to a hospital, what are your key issues that you have dealt with? Okay, the biggest pain points, according to us, have been when you are getting admitted, the whole admission process and the time it takes for the approval to come through from the insurer. And the other is at the time of discharge, right? Discharge, you have heard horror stories, right, of what actually happens when people have to at times wait for the next day and so on. So we've identified these as, key points for effective sort of service delivery, and ensured that for a majority of our claimants for cashless claims, we are close to 95% pre-authorizations are done less than an hour. Okay. Similarly, at the time of discharge, we do it mostly within 3 hours. But we are not satisfied with this. We believe that we need to come out with a paradigm where we can give D-1 discharge approval, so that on the day of discharge, a customer is not bothered by, all this hassle of getting an approval.
Right.
So we're working with specific providers on a pilot basis, so that we can bring this actually live as an experience to policyholders and customers. So now coming to the second part of the question, in terms of why it is important to also take care of the overutilization part, or, keeping a control there. Because ultimately, see, as I started with, that you have to take care of the claimants and the non-claimants, and you have to keep the premium affordable. So it's important that, while we are taking care of fast turnaround times, etc., we have guardrails to ensure that there are effective frameworks on claims processing, a very robust technology platform on which it is done, so that we are able to catch things on the go and ensure that we are sort of doing necessary audits, controls, etc.
Fraud, wastage, abuse, these have been structural problems in healthcare and health insurance globally.
Yeah.
So what are some of the operational checks that can be put in place or should be put in place to ensure that, the providers are managed very responsibly?
Fraud, waste and abuse is a very, very big part of the overall, setup. I mean, let's face the fact and recognize that it is real. When there are various estimates that peg it at about 10% of the overall spends, which means for the kind of size we are in, it's 10,000 crores of rupees annually. That must be going into fraud, waste and abuse. So it's a significantly large amount of funds that have to be dealt with, and it's important that all insurers come together to fight this in the most effective manner. So we have put in place a lot of fraud analytical models, tech enablers for the same. We're investing heavily on now AI-led models where this can be done much more smarter.
Right. And there have been, of course, very big concerns around escalating hospital costs and charges, so much so that we've heard parliamentary remarks on, comparing the tariffs that hospitals are charging versus tariffs being charged by five-star luxury hotels. In your view, how can insurers really navigate this increasing treatment cost while keeping premiums affordable and manageable?
See, the concerns raised are very real, and we keep observing this. Take, for example, C-sections, okay? Why is it that in the insured population, C-sections are close to 70%, whereas in the non-insured population or populations that do not have effective payment mechanisms, it is hardly 20%. So there's gross amount of overutilization happening there. Similarly, if you look at room rents, there is so much opacity and lack of transparency in terms of what a particular room rent includes or does not include. And therefore, there is a whole range of things that get covered in the room rent, or they might not get covered.
Yeah.
So if all of this gets much more standardized and uniform and has a specific sort of order, then it can be much more fairer and well understood both by customers and, of course, insurers.
Fair enough. Okay, so talking about non-claimants, value for them often lies in wellness benefits. Now, how do you make wellness benefits a very tangible and integrated part of the policyholder journey? And how do you really measure whether it's actually helping? Is it improving outcomes or not?
There is a very big need for the non-claimants to have some value for the policy, for them to be part of the pool.
Yeah.
Because they are the majority and they keep paying premium year after year. So what we have done is that we've come out with a lot of wellness and preventive measures to ensure that policy holders keep getting something out of the policy year after year. The first one is preventive health checkups.
Right.
These are comprehensive health checks that are available every year at the time of renewal, where people can, get themselves checked. It helps them, of course, know if anything is developing. Also, take due care, preventive care. Okay. Right. Then we offer a lot of condition management programs for, say, weight management, cardiac care, for special program for women called HER. A lot of digital interfaces. For example, through our app, we offer face scans.
Right.
Through a 1-minute scan, you can get 5-6 important health vitals just by looking at the phone.
Is this accurate?
This is fairly accurate. During COVID, I think all of us experienced using that oximeter, right?
Yeah.
You did that. That used to cost, I think, $1,500, $2,000.
Yes.
And it used to give the oxygen saturation level.
Correct.
Now, this is available on our app through this face scan without any touch at 99% accuracy, completely complementary to the policy. You can even get your blood pressure through this app. So these are the kind of features and benefits that we are giving to all the policyholders so that, they continue to avail of these coverages as well as get some benefit each year.
All right, on that note, we are going to head into a short break right now. We've spoken about trust, claims, discipline, wellness, and the rising cost of care. When we return, we'll look at product design, technology, and what it really takes to transition from being a payer to becoming a health manager. Stay with us on CNBC TV 18.
Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health Insurance and CNBC TV 18. Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health Insurance and CNBC TV 18.
Welcome back to Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health and CNBC TV 18. Today, I'm in conversation with Amitabh Jain, the COO of Star Health and Allied Insurance. And our theme today is from complexity to clarity, what it takes to make health insurance work. In this segment, we'll now turn to product design, prevention, technology, and the future of operational reforms in health insurance. Amitabh, let's start with product design. Now, give us a sense of what happens at the back end. Operationally, how closely are you working with the product teams to ensure that, the customer has a seamless policy experience, whether in terms of buying policy or claim settlement or anything across the journey that's happening, and what kind of safeguards that you build in to promote more healthcare insurance adoption, and while also empowering customers with very meaningful choices.
So product differentiation as well as customer segmentation has been one of the key sort of innovations for Star Health. Way back in 2006-07, when Star got launched, when most of the industry was shying away from insuring senior citizens because of the perceived higher risk, Star Health came with the first senior health product, senior citizen product. And it's been one of the most sought after products since then. Similarly, from time to time, it has identified specific risk segments and offered products that appeal to that particular risk segments. For example, a product for cardiac care, right, where people already having a cardiac issue got those coverages, or for that matter, cancer care. And very recently, women, led product. So this is something that Star specializes in, and this is an area that we keep working on. The way it is done is to get deep into the customer analytics, the risk understanding of that particular segment, then come out with appropriate coverage at the right price to being able to offer this. So that's one of the things. The other area that we continuously look into is how do we ensure that while we are coming up with more and more coverage for the advancement of healthcare, we have enough guardrails and protection to ensure that overconsumption or overutilization is prevented.
All right. So let's also talk about technology. Now, technology is often prescribed as the silver bullet.
Right.
But how are you deploying it to improve the care that you offer, the appropriate care at the right time, and also cost integrity? And second, can technology also be used for educating the customer, and are you doing that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tech is everywhere now, and so therefore it has to be part of insurance as well. And when we look at it, there are three distinct segments where tech has to operate, right? One is the customer front, where you're basically distributing the product, offering the services and so on. Second is your own internal systems to take care of the policy and the claims and so on. And the third is how you enable systems for your distribution. So on all these three fronts, okay, we are continuously investing. In fact, this year we are completely upgrading and renovating our entire claim stack with a state-of-the-art system to ensure that we provide the best service and ensure that all the points that I made earlier on overutilization, etc., all of those are kept in check. On the customer front, I spoke about the Star Health app. That is now more than 13 million downloads with almost 1 million active users every month.
Wow.
And it has some of these amazing features like face scan, preventive health checkups, all the condition management programs, all available at the touch of a button. Right. You can even renew your policies there. So those are the kind of things we are investing on. For our distributors, we have again ensured that 80 to 90% of our entire sourcing happens through digital platforms. Again, enabling complete journey, which is digitized both for the customer as well as our distributors.
Now, health insurers today are also increasingly calling themselves health managers. Now, give us a sense of operationally, what does this mean to make this claim really credible, especially at the scale at which you are operating, because it's huge.
Gone are the days when insurers can just say that, whenever a policy is issued and a claim comes, I'll settle that claim and that's the end of it. I think to ensure that if we want to be a long-term player and we want to have a sustainable book, it is critical that insurers move from a payer to a partner. It is no more a case of just being a payer. And to be a partner in people's health journey, it means lots of investments in various other distinct areas. Starting from, the entire preventive health checkups, the clinical understanding of risk, the effective management of providers, and a very big part will come into behavioral sciences.
Right. Now, the General Insurance Council has finalized standard treatment and admission guidelines for several of the common and infectious diseases. What role have you all played in shaping this initiative? And do you believe that standardized clinical care is really the kind of structural reform that the industry needs at this point?
Absolutely. In fact, we want to thank the council for taking this up. Star, along with some of the other players, actually took this up with the council about 2 quarters back. We actively worked on these guidelines, actually drawing upon from references that are already there in the industry. For example, ICMR, AIMS, and various other recognized bodies. And we put them together, and this has now been adopted by the entire industry. What this will do is there'll become a standard way of approaching some of these issues. For example, what is the criteria for admission in case of a fever or in case of a dengue? And that brings a lot of clarity both to the customers, the providers, and to the insurers. And, it leads to very seamless operations. Otherwise, it used to lead to unnecessary noise and, customers feeling that, why am my admission not being allowed and so on.
You are an operations specialist. If you could institutionalize one operational standard across the industry or the sector tomorrow, what would that be and why?
So there are a lot of matrices even today, that define a lot of factors for the customer to look at. But one ratio, which is the settlement ratio, which is basically how many claims, either in terms of numbers or amount, an insurer is settling, is a very important parameter that needs to be well defined. Today is just one metric which is available for the entire industry for each insurer. What is required is that this is broken into a retail number and a group number, because a retail policy works very differently from a group policy. And the whole economics and the structure of those two products and policies are very different. So for a retail customer, it will be very important to see a metric that is only defined for retail health policies. And that is something that we have taken up with the regulator, and we believe that will be out there soon.
All right. Well, finally, let's talk about the future outlook. If you're to think about 5 years ahead from now, what do you think will really distinguish health insurers as, being dependable, being trusted, being resilient, and, of course, long-term successes in the years to come?
So if I were to sum up the entire discussion and focus on, what lies ahead, I think empathy with discipline, growth with sustainability, and innovation with accountability, are three different spheres that we need to work upon. And related to that, if you look at internally for an insurer, managing costs effectively is very, very important. Both costs of operations as well as how we engage with providers to build sustainable networks and give the best value for money for the patients and the customers. And ultimately, for the long term, I think the three areas that I spoke about in various points. One, having product structures which are well designed and thought through. There are incentives that are designed to the health condition, and a world-class customer experience that matches with the best today across industries, of course, through cutting-edge tech, will be the order of the day. The insurers who are achieving this will be the ones who will thrive and sustain for the long term.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, Amitabh, and really demystifying the operational backbone of health insurance for us. Appreciate you taking the time and being here today.
Pleasure, and thanks a lot, Madhu.
Well, health insurance may seem complex, but at its core, it's about reliability when you need it the most. As we've heard today, clarity comes from disciplined systems, thoughtful design, and accountability at every step. For policyholders, that means greater confidence in protection they are choosing. And hope you enjoyed those insights today. Thank you very much for joining us on Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health Insurance and CNBC TV 18. Until next time, goodbye.
Health Cover Uncovered, an initiative by Star Health Insurance and CNBC TV 18.